Hello and welcome to the program. Rich and Laurie are originally from Chicago and the surrounding suburbs. They relocated to South Florida in 2010, and they have been active in the area, enjoying a climate that allows for more pleasurable year-round recreation and activities. Let's see and/or hear what Rich and Laurie in South Florida have to share with us about where to go and what to do.
All right, good morning and welcome to episode 19 of the Rich and Laurie in SouthFlorida.com podcast and YouTube channel. I'm Rich by name only.
I must be Laurie.
And you are. Listen, this is a long time since we've done one of these things, but as you can see from what Laurie's holding here, today's episode is going to be based on alligators. Specifically,
Gatorama.
Gatorama. If you haven't been there, it's really interesting. You know, a little bit of history. We moved here to Alva from the Florida Everglades where alligators were kind of like dogs. We referred to them. Remember, before that, we came from Chicago and we never heard of alligators. But when we moved to Homestead and spent 10 years there in the Everglades, we realized that alligators are really not, I'm not going to say harmful, but they're not as threatening as people think they are. We called them, towards the end of our stay, we said they were like dogs, because if they won't bother you unless you kind of corner them, then they will, but they'll basically walk away from you. And I think the most important thing about living on these small ponds and lakes is not to feed them.
Yeah, and we used to kayak in the Everglades, and we would be kayaking and we'd go, okay, alligator 11 o'clock, alligator 2 o'clock.
Remember, we had those big squirt guns. We filled them with water and we would squirt them when they came close to the kayak, and they would just turn around, or they'd go under.
Yeah, only if they were blocking our path.
Oh, right. We didn't go looking for them to squirt them, but if they blocked our path and we had to get through with the kayak, we would just squirt them with a squirt gun and they would move.
Yeah, so it's a little warm in Alva this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. June, July, August. Those are the months everybody warned us about. If you don't like the heat, you're not going to like June, July, and August, but it doesn't bother us.
It's like a permanent sheen.
That's good. Sheen. That's a good word.
Well, let's talk about Gatorama.
Gatorama, that was fun.
I'm so surprised that people around here don't know where it is, because it's less than an hour drive from Alva or from River Hall, whatever. But it opened in 1957, and that was the year I was born.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Huh. That thing has been there since 57.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have some alligator facts to share. It was started by Cecil Clemens, who died in 1997, and it was his main source of income was selling alligators. And I think he used to harvest the meat too, but they have one of the largest collections of alligators and crocodiles in the U.S.
Well, that's certainly true. I mean, if you've ever been to this place, they're everywhere. There's probably 1,000, would you say? 1,000 alligators?
Yeah, probably.
In all of the different stages of life, there's some very small ones and some huge ones, and they have feeding, and it's just a fun time.
Yeah, they have like daily feedings. They have one price for admission, which I don't remember exactly how much it was. You can find on their website. But I thought it was reasonable. And then if you have kids, you can do little side trips. Like you could do Python Hold, or the Big Tortoise, or Uncle Wader's Catch a Gator, and gem mining for kids. For adults, they have this thing called the Fast Hands Challenge. What do you think that would mean?
I really don't know, but something sparked a thought when you said the alligator hold. If you hold it, alligators don't feel anything like they look. They look like they would be slimy and slippery to the touch, but they're really not. They're extremely clean, and their skin is kind of rough, and they're very easy to hold. Okay, I'm sorry, I got distracted.
That's okay. This would be the Fast Hands Challenge.
Well, that's right, to get your hand out of the alligator before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't that sound like fun?
Yeah, but
looks like I did that once. Look.
It's in the little town of Palmdale, and Palmdale has a population of 298 whopping people.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of by itself off that highway. What highway is that? 27?
Yeah, 27. It's 27. It's like a 35-mile drive from LaBelle.
So I think if you put Gatorama in your GPS, it'll find it by Gatorama. I think it will by name.
Yeah. Remember when we pulled up there, they had this really cool building and all this stuff. If you pay attention in front of the building, all those little eggs and little things that look like little gators. And actually, this time of year, they have a gator hatching festival where you can pay a little extra and some friends of ours did that, where they put an egg in your hand and the little gator hatches out. So you can, I don't think they let you touch the new baby gator, but you can see what a new baby gator hatching looks like. But you have to reserve a specific time for that, because there's only so many eggs that they'll let people touch.
And they're cute when they come out of the egg.
Yeah, there's plenty of parking, and if you're driving like an RV, or you have a bunch of people, we saw like RVs parked along the side of the road, right just past Gatorama, so there's plenty of parking.
Yeah, it's 100% gators. There's nothing else there. Laurie mentioned pythons. That's a problem down in the Everglades too. They're taking over the Everglades, but I don't think their population is migrating up here to this area. But they had a python center there where you could also see those snakes.
Yeah, the store was really cool. I wanted to buy a shirt, but I didn't do that. And so, but they have water bottles. They have alligator poop. Remember that little alligator poop you could buy?
Yeah.
They had stuffed alligators, and you could buy actually alligator tail meat, ribs or sausage.
They had belts. I saw alligator belts. They were like $419, but they were made out of belts. And truth be told, during my motorcycle riding days, I had a seat on my Harley Davidson that was made out of alligator that came from Florida. At that point in time, I was living in Chicago and then up in Homestead with the Harley, but it had an alligator seat, and that was very, very expensive. But as you know, they make shoes and purses and belts and all kinds of things from alligator skins.
Yeah, and similar to alligator are Crocs. Did you know that there are 29 varieties of Crocs in the world? And I'm not talking about the shoes.
The crocodiles. What's the difference between a crocodile and an alligator?
You should
tell
know
our
that.
fans. I do, as a matter of fact. The most noticeable difference is that alligators are black and crocodiles are sometimes multicolor. We've seen them green camouflage. They're all different colors. And then the other telltale?
The crocodiles have pointy nose, and actually their teeth always show. And alligators' teeth you can't see when their mouth is closed.
Right, and alligators' mouths are more rounded, where crocodiles are pointy.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I know.
And as soon as you leave the store, you go out to this little porch where there's some shade there and a table, but you're like immediately in the feeding area. And there's this long covered walkway where you can stand and watch, and there's a plank that the feeder goes out to, so he can stand over the alligators and feed.
Oh, I just thought of another useful tip. The way to tell how long an alligator is by looking at it in the water. The distance between their bulky eyes, from their eyes to their snoot, whatever that is in inches, that's typically what the alligator is in feet long.
We should try to measure one out here someday.
Yeah, we see the ones that are swimming in our ponds here, and they tend to be up to 6 feet long, because you can estimate the distance between their eyes and their snoot to be 6 inches, so they're probably 6 feet.
I'll take a picture while you're measuring them.
And by the way, that's from tip of their snoot to the tail. That's how you measure the length of an alligator. It's the entire alligator.
Some of them in that feeding area were like 10 to 12 feet long. They were huge.
They were just huge. They were so big, and they were feeding them whole chicken parts.
Yeah, you could also, just like when you have that fish feeding thing, you can pay, I don't even know, it's like $1 or $2 for a bag of alligator food when you check in at the store. And you're allowed to feed any of the animals just by throwing the food into the water. And there's really, I can't see anywhere where there was a place that you could have put your hands near the alligators. It's very, very well protected. They have screening where you can just barely fit the food through the little screen. But it was fun. Some kids were feeding them. We each had a bag of food, and we would be feeding the alligators and videoing them.
In that case, the alligator would not attempt to come and bite your hand just to bite your hand. They would think that you had food in it. That's the only reason they would come up and be somewhat aggressive. But they're really passive. They're just there. They're waiting to be fed, because they are all captive, and that's all they do with those alligators. They don't release them back into the wild. These are just for demonstration and viewing.
Right, and I think they sell the alligator meat too. So but they had an area, one of the little pens we'll talk about in a minute. But they have an area specifically for people, for where they've captured alligators in neighborhoods and brought them in. So they quarantine them there for a while in this one particular pen, and then they release them to the rest of the crew of alligators. They had a feeding show at noon, and the feeding show wasn't any additional cost. So it's right at noon if you can get there on time. It was really, really easy to hear the guy. And remember, alligators all had really funny names.
Yeah, he had a name for all the alligators. I don't know if the alligators recognized their names, but he certainly had names for them.
He had us convinced that they did.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, you mentioned alligator meat. We've eaten alligator before. If you go there, or if you get a chance to taste it, you should. What does it taste like?
Chicken?
Tastes like chicken. Everything tastes like chicken. Alligator meat does taste like chicken, but it's
Maybe
very
it's
good.
because they feed the alligators chickens.
Oh, there's a thought.
Well, after the show, you can walk down the boardwalk that's covered, and they have alligators on the left and crocs on the right. And there's also a few other animals. Remember those large lizards that we saw?
Mm-hmm.
There's, as far as you can see, there's additional pens on each side.
Yeah, the iguanas get to be pretty good size here. We've not seen too many. We saw more in Homestead than we've seen here, but they're kind of prehistoric looking too. They have a few of those there.
I like their signs that says, if you put your fingers in the cage, they will be bitten. Pretty obvious, huh?
How much more descriptive or graphic can that be?
Huh. Did you know that the sex of an alligator is determined by the temperature of the nest?
Exactly. Yep. What determines the baby alligator's sex is the temperature in the nest. So the eggs that are on the bottom that get warmer are probably, I don't know if it's male or female, but the warmer ones I think are male and the colder ones are female.
Yeah, and they always say that if an alligator is chasing you to run in a zigzag, but do you know that alligators can't see directly in front of them?
Right, so the best way to, if you wanted to sneak up on an alligator, you could come up from behind it, similar to a snake, because they have their eyes in the front and they're typically looking forward. But if they turn left or right, they can see you in their peripheral vision, but you can walk right up to an alligator from behind them.
Yeah, and you know, alligators can't survive in the salt water, and crocs are the only thing that can survive in brackish water, which is a combination of salt or fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And they live to be 30 to 50 years old.
Yeah, a great lifespan.
Yeah. There are 1.2 million alligators in Florida.
That's incredible, 1.2 million. Well, there are a considerable number of alligators at this Gatorama, so that's taking a chunk of the population, but
yeah, I know people, you know, in the Fort Myers area in general, they're always looking for things to do when family comes and visits, but this has probably not been on your radar.
Great place to take them.
Yeah.
And for all the people that we've heard since we've been here in Florida, oh, how do you go in the water with the alligators? You got to go to this place, and I think it'll alleviate that fear that you have of these things, because there's nothing to be afraid of, unless, again, you trap them. And if you trap them, they're going to defend themselves. But other than that, they're very passive. If you walk up to them, they'll go in the other direction.
Yeah, and you know, they have 80 teeth in their mouth, and they can stay underwater for more than 2 hours.
Wow. So there you go.
Those are all of my alligator fun facts for today.
I can't think of any others. I would just recommend that if you have not been there, go there. As Laurie said, it's a great place to take visitors if they're coming to Florida. For all the people who say, oh, alligators, how can you live there? Go to Gatorama and you'll see.
Yeah, and we'll put a link in the description for the Gatorama, so you can check it out and get your own directions. So we like to talk about restaurants at the end of each of our podcasts, and we try to focus on non-chain restaurants that are in the area. So we have 3 favorites.
Go ahead, let me mention that. Before you mention the restaurants, I'd just like to mention to everybody, if you hit that subscribe button down below, you'll get a notice. There's a little bell there too. If you hit the bell, you'll get a notice of when we do these podcasts. This is episode 19. We expect to do a lot more, and Laurie's going to cover some of the restaurants that we've seen here, and we're going to do a whole episode on restaurants coming up pretty soon. But where are we going? I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Izzy's, downtown Fort Myers.
Wow, what a place. Great seafood, sleeper. The name is prominent outside the building. Izzy's, it's on the corner. It just, go there.
Beautiful inside. I love their murals. Their food is really good.
Yeah, waitresses, the wait staff is incredible. Atmosphere is beautiful. The wall hangings, decorations. It's a great place.
Yeah, we're not oyster eaters, but apparently they specialize in oysters.
Yeah.
And then one of your new favorites is the Oxbow.
The Oxbow on, is that Henley or Healy Road? Hendry Road. Going through town, come to Hendry, make a right. If you drive into the water, you've gone past the Oxbow. You can't miss it. It's right where at the land's end where it comes up to the water, and it's on a marina, so the view from the dining area is I call it breathtaking. I love looking out at those boats. That's one of my favorites that we found here.
Yeah, they have a pretty eclectic menu. It's not like one of those menus where they have 50 things. They have probably a dozen things on the menu, and they have a special Sunday morning brunch menu. I think if you were like taking a boat from, let's say you wanted to rent a boat from the Caloosahatchee River and you went to downtown Fort Myers, I think there's an area right there where you could actually dock the boat and go have lunch, and then you could take your boat back, or if you were boating from Fort Myers Beach. And lastly, one of our all-time favorites, we can't wait to go back again, is Bruno's of Brooklyn.
This was a sleeper. I was thinking, how did we find Bruno's? Did someone recommend that, or did we drive past it, or how?
No, we're on our search for all of the downtown Fort Myers restaurants.
That's right. Oh, if you didn't know that, we're trying to eat at a different restaurant in downtown Fort Myers. We've been doing it for like 3 weeks, and we've not eaten in the same one twice. But we came across this Bruno's of Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have to say that's probably
the best
my
restaurant.
favorite. Yeah, it's. I don't know how to explain it other than if you spent any time in New York. It's a typical New York restaurant in the middle of Fort Myers. The folks are from New York. They're very, very friendly and accommodating. They welcome new guests. There's not a lot of seating. You have to make reservations. Everything is homemade. We know that for sure. The hostess that we've met is the wife of the owner and I think the main chef. They have a counter with some of the prepared foods that they just warm when you order them, but it's all fresh. They make it fresh, put it in this counter so you can see what you're eating and what you're getting. But I love that place. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, I think he's a third generation family cook, chef.
Yeah, there's an interesting story behind the Bruno's restaurant that you'll hear if you go there and ask. But otherwise, it's a little loud, a little noisy, but again, just like New York, not too loud that you can't have a conversation, but you'll hear the decibel levels a little high. Yeah,
and they do a lot of fundraising for the nonprofits in Fort Myers, and I think some of the children's hospitals or something. The family themselves are very giving back to the community, so you don't mind spending a little bit more for a meal when you know that they're looking out for all the people in your neighborhood.
I've had the pasta there, which was excellent. I had the pasta and I call it Robbie. It's a
broccorabi.
A broccorabi. It's in the broccoli family. That was delicious. What else did I have there? I forgot. I can't think quick enough. But it was all good. All the meals were good.
Yeah, we have one more that's not on our list that we'll cover in more depth later, but I can't not mention it. Which is one? Peter's, the ice cream and bakery.
Yeah, another thing we found by accident. We tend to park in the same place downtown when we go there in this parking lot. And when we walked out of the parking lot, we saw this German bakery. And I love German bakeries and I love German food, and it caught our eye. And we went in and met, I can't pronounce her name, but it's a husband and wife team that own it.
They're from Germany, yes.
He was a financial manager in Germany turned baker, and he makes incredible plum cake. If you know what German plum cake is, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. It was so good that we bought a whole one, which was probably 18 inches in diameter for $36.
45 pounds. No, I'm just kidding.
I think we've gained 45 pounds since we've eaten it. But again, a sleeper, but a great place. Go in for a cup of just fresh coffee and a German pastry. It's right off the beaten path. You can't miss it. It has all the silver furniture out on the sidewalk in front of it. People are very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it for now.
I think so too. Again, hit the subscribe button if you would, and you'll get notified of when we're going to do these podcasts and YouTube presentations. That wraps it up as far as Gatorama and a couple of the restaurants. The next one, we can't even leave a teaser of what it's going to be about, but look for it. It'll be episode 20. There'll be 20 of these things, and we love bringing them to you. If you have any things that you'd like us to cover or any questions you have about any of this, feel free to contact us. You're welcome to. We've got email addresses in that website, richandlaurieinsouthflorida.com. There's phone numbers there to text us or call us. There's email addresses. And with that, what do you say? Is it a wrap?
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Till next time.
Thank you for watching and/or listening to Rich and Laurie in South Florida. We hope you have enjoyed the program and that you will come back for the next episode to learn more about where to go and what to do when your travels bring you to tropical South Florida. If you would like to sponsor this program and get special attention on your place of business, you can contact Rich and Laurie in South Florida at 630-642-6500. That's 630-642-6500.